about leaders in the country. And I said to you, we're hearing promises. We talked about people, candidates, or should I say aspirants you'd like to hear from. And you all kept going on about Peter Obi, Peter Obi, Peter Obi, Peter Obi. I'm like, okay, why do you want Peter Obi? And everybody gave their reasons. Everybody explained. Everybody had something to say. So, of course, I then said to you, I'm going to have to get him here now, right? I have to find a way to find him. I spoke to the universe. I spoke to my ancestors. And I also picked up the phone to call somebody who can call the man himself. And guess what? If I had one of those, I can tell you, today, my special guest, it is my honor. No, before I do that, let me give you the studio lines. 0700 993 993 993. Female only lines 01465 7190. WhatsApp number 0809 597 5805. We are live on Facebook, Nigeria Info FM. We are on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos. We are on Twitter and Twitter Spaces today, yes, at Nigeria Info FM. And our website is www.nigeriainfo.fm. And you can go on YouTube. If you go on YouTube right now, you know who's here. Yes, with special guest today is the former governor of Anambra State and the 2023 PDP presidential aspirant, Mr. Peter Obi, and he was here super early. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Surviving.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
You look well for somebody that's surviving.
No, I'm surviving. Every Nigerian is surviving.
I also have to say, you got here super early.
Well, yes, because there's a time. When you have time, when you are given time for something, you have to be there on time.
So you're always on time, are you?
As I always.
Always.
I try to make sure I'm on time. I don't believe in African time.
Well, that says a lot about you. Right, so we have several questions. As you heard in my intro, my listeners really wanted to hear from you. So I had to obey, which is why you're here. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right, so let's get started. We don't have much time. We only have 90 minutes, but that 90 minutes...
90?
But it seems like 30 minutes. I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to want it extended. My guy is in the corner there. I don't know whether you can have a word with him. Jesus. But it's not long. It is not long, I assure you.
Okay, I had my next appointment for 2:30. Think it's gonna... It's okay.
Yes,
I'm here.
We finish at 2:30.
I'm here.
Yeah? And your next appointment is probably listening. Don't know why you're late. Service to the community, service to the people, service to Danfo Conversations.
Thank you.
Okay. So, here's a quote. And I think it's a memorable quote that you said. You said it, I think it was last week at Atiku Abubakar's declaration. You said politics is a relationship. In your opinion, where does that relationship begin? Does it begin with the people, your opponents, your political colleagues, or even your ambition? Where does it begin?
It starts with you and the people. It's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if I choose to be in public space, if I choose to serve the people, I should be able to relate with them. You know, and then the same thing goes with your colleagues who are contesting the election with you. You're not at war. If you are quarreling with people, you must be able to connect yourself to the people. I have served, for example, as the governor. When I was serving as the governor, they would tell you, I insist, I must talk to the people. If I'm visiting a community, I want to listen to the community. I want to see the ordinary people in the community. You know, it will shock you. Whenever I go into a school, I ask the principal and all the teachers to go away. I want to listen to the students.
Mm-hmm.
And what they tell me, change the school system. Because they are free. And they can say to me, You're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, and everything. It's a relationship. That's why, as governor, all the senior prefects had my phone number. So I can relate with them. And that changes entire thing. So it's a relationship. The same thing with my opponents who campaign with me. I was telling somebody recently, when he was talking to me about the issue of going to Atiku, I said, listen, Obasanjo came to Anambra State to campaign for PDP candidate in an election I'm contesting. I accompanied him to the campaign. And he even announced there that I'm the outgoing governor. This is the incoming one.
Yeah.
But I was contesting that election. If you ask Governor Fashola, he came to my state in an election I'm campaigning to campaign for ACN candidate then, Dr. Chris Ngige. I provided him with my official vehicle and everything to go for a campaign against me.
So
because
it is
the relationship.
So that's where the relationship is. And you mentioned something which brings me on to my next question. Your time in Anambra, 2 terms as the governor.
Yeah.
And one of the memorable achievements, if I may say so, and which a lot of my listeners also mentioned, was what you did with education in Anambra, and you've also mentioned it. But I want you to go into it, and I think some actually even call it the Peter Obi education revolution in Anambra State. Your state leaped from 26th out of 36 states to first place in NECO and WAEC, and and you also did something. Microsoft, you partnered with Microsoft, and since then the state continues to see the reward. So here's what I want to understand: how do you intend to replicate that if you were the president yesterday?
Well, let me tell you, the most important investment any society, any nation can do is education. Education is investment. Every studies have shown that the more educated your people are, the more developed you are. What is the measure of development? Development have 3 critical measures. 3. Number 1 is talk about health, because people have to be healthy. As the first, so that's why they call life expectancy. Life expectancy talks about health issue. Number 2, and the most critical one, is the education. Number 3 is per capita income, which is like pulling people out of poverty. If you get these 3 things right, your country is moving. And education has become the critical one that is sitting between these 2. You must do it. And that's what we're not doing. Now you see that today Ghana is doing better than Nigeria. It's because they've invested in education.
So could we argue that it was easier for you to do it in Anambra than it would be in the state, given what's going on with ASU strike right now?
It's very easy. Let me tell you, what is going on with ASU strike is very unfortunate. It just shows that we don't take education serious. Especially basic education. I'm even worried about basic education. You have a situation where you have 15 million people out of school. Let me give you an example of what education can do for you. A country like Philippines, a country like Egypt, let me use the economy, earns more money from diaspora income than Nigeria.
How so?
Because they've educated their people. They have less population than we are. Egypt is about 108 million, Philippines about the same thing. Because they've educated their people, so they can now go and do a lot of jobs. If you go around Europe, everywhere, you see Filipinos serving people, even in Nigeria and everything, because they have basic education. So diaspora remittances in Philippines now is almost hitting $50 billion.
So how do we ensure, how are you going to eradicate strikes such as ASU strikes in our education system if you were president yesterday?
Let me give you, when I look at it as a strike, it's just that people are not serious. ASU strike, remember, they are talking about the agreement that was reached several years ago.
That's right, yes.
and have not been fulfilled to today.
Correct.
My sister, imagine if you had been fulfilling that agreement bit by bit. It would have been finished by now. How can you spend, I'm sure we spend about ₦1 billion keeping refineries that are not working when you should have been paying it small to these people. If you have an agreement, and this goes with all the government agreements, if you have an agreement with somebody and say, I'm owing you 50 billion, for example, but I don't have money, I'm going to pay it over a period of 5 years or 10 years, and you're paying it consistently, I assure you the person will never go on strike.
Okay.
But what happens there is that there's an agreement, and when you finish that paper, they throw the paper away and continue with that.
Okay. Let's move on to the state of the nation and security in particular, because when we talk about the current state of the nation, it really is about security. We'll talk about economy later. So we have several agitations going on. We have the separatist agitations in the form of IPOB and Sunday Igboho and the likes. And we also have terrorism, domestic terrorism that's currently packaged as bandits. I'd like to know, what are your thoughts and how do you intend to solve, one, IPOB, and two, the domestic terrorism?
Okay. All the agitations you're seeing today, I will even include terrorism into it, is the cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. That's what you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. Cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. It's failure of leadership that have refused to invest in critical area of development. And that's what you're facing. For example, when you talk about security, you have what you can call natural security and defensive security. Natural security is that you have to, people have to have a means of livelihood. Mm-hmm. When you don't know where the next meal will come from, you're actually a threat, a security threat, because you must do something to eat.
Indeed.
So we have refused. Today we have a crisis where you have 33% unemployment. If you combine it with underemployment, you have about over 55% unemployment and underemployment. And 60% of this number are actually youths in their productive age.
Yes. Which brings me on to my next question.
At a critical, this is your engine of production, not doing anything. So you're going to have a security problem. You're going to have agitations. You're going to have all sorts of things and everything. If you have taken care of this by providing them by means of livelihood, by pulling them out of this situation, then you now invest in what you call defensive security, which is we need to have police, more of this, and support them.
Okay. We're going to talk about state police, but I want to go back to what you said about the youth. Clearly, we have a youth bulge in the country. And I want to know how exactly, and when you talk about security, you talk about the vast unemployed youth. It is also critical to bring in the economy. How do you intend, or what economic revolution do you intend to implement, given that we're still a monolithic economy? And how are you going to use that to fix that youth bulge, to prevent further insecurity?
Remember I talked about education. Mm-hmm. You educate the youths. The youths, at the youth stage, this is where you have the entrepreneurial spirit. If you talk about America today, talk about from Microsoft to Apple to Amazon, all these corporations we are here in Facebook, they were all started by youths. And the youths of this country are so talented. What you need is, having educated them, is to support them, to have access to funding.
Right.
They'll create a future and they will employ labor.
Okay.
So you have, as you use of entrepreneurs, countries are driven by entrepreneurship. These are the youths, that's where they belong.
Now, before we go on break, since you mentioned entrepreneurship, one of the biggest complaints of SMEs, and these are the youth, micro, small, and medium enterprises, it's
Which is the
not
engine of the economy, engine of every economy.
Exactly. But a lot of them are complaining about stealth taxation. Taxation is different to stealth taxation. And the stealth taxation is what's killing them. What's killing most businesses. How are you going to fix that?
Let me tell you, it's not just taxation.
Okay.
Their biggest problem is access to funding.
But there is stealth taxation.
Yeah, there is. Not those things that are there, but those ones can be dealt with. If they have access to funding, they will overcome a lot. They're not encouraged. There's no support from the system.
So where's that funding going to come from then?
Of course, it's a deliberate thing.
Okay.
If you go to China, if you go to Indonesia, if you go to I just came back from Morocco. You have to have a certain percentage of your lending at a competitive rate that must go to this sector. For example, in China today, 20% of the lending go to this sector because it's the engine of the economy. MSMEs drives every economy in the world, including the developed world. I always use China when the people say, oh, he's always talking about China. Because I've studied China. I can use it in Bangladesh. I can tell you about Indonesia. I can tell you about Morocco, Egypt, everywhere. And you can see what this sector is doing. The reason why I always talk about China is that not just because I've studied the Chinese economy over the years, but because China is the fastest developing country in the world, maybe India now, and they've done a lot in the past few years.
Yeah.
If a country has in 1990, 98% of Chinese, call it even 95% of Chinese people live under poverty. And today, they have less than 2%. It's incredible.
We're going to be talking about the economy.
So, pulling that out, and you know what?
Yeah.
The magic? The magic is among the MSMEs. Small, medium businesses in China today contributes 65% of their GDP, 65% of their productive assets, creates over 60% of the jobs.
But, sir,
the jobs in China is 800 million people. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. But, sir, we can't get away from the fact that stealth taxation eats into the bottom line of SMEs, MSMEs. And that stealth taxation is actually outside of their control. Now, if the small businesses in China
Can you give me an
are
example?
creating revenue.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, so you have taxes on refuse. You have taxes on putting your signage up. You have all sorts of different taxes. But you also pay tax for the business.
No, you're telling me the same thing I'm saying. Because it's a disorganized system.
Okay, it's a system.
If this system is organized, which I will, because don't forget I'm a trader.
Yes.
I'm coming from this background.
We're going on a break. We'll be right back. We'll continue this conversation after the break.
Information at its peak. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm listening.
The WhatsApp, the messages are insane. But you guys need to be calming down, as that little boy said to his mommy. You need to be calming down. Let me talk with my guest. And I promise I'm going to try and answer as many calls as possible. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
About the issue of tax.
Yes.
Let me tell you. That's where I'm coming.
Okay.
I started as a small business So I know the problem of small businesses. I'm a trader. I still live in Onitsha today, and that's where I operate. I can tell you, I know what it means to deal with the micro, small, medium enterprises in this country.
Now let's go on to the economy. Many questions. One of the things that you've said and you've repeated several times, and you've also hinted at, is how you're going to turn Nigeria from a consuming country or nation or economy to a producing economy.
Yes.
How do you intend to do that?
That's what we're talking by ensuring that you support entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but there's the
Support
entrepreneurship, but we still only earn the majority of our income from oil. The world is moving away from fossil fuels.
Let me tell you, oil is finished.
Okay.
Oil is finished. What did you earn from oil? You earned from oil last year about $18 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That is not up to a quarter of Facebook turnover.
Yeah.
I just came from Morocco. There, last year, Morocco exported 40-something billion worth of goods without oil. I can go on and countries of the world. Like I always say, look at Niger State. Niger State has a total of 76 square kilometers of size.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not producing anything. And you have Netherlands with 33,000 square meters, excluding water. If you include water, it's 43. Exporting agricultural products of 120-something billion.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to become a producing country. Nigeria is not a producing country. And the reason why you're not producing is because of corruption. Because, corruption kills three things that develop a society. It kills entrepreneurship. So you don't appreciate entrepreneurship. It kills professionalism, and it kills hard work.
I'm glad you mentioned corruption. Let's talk about corruption. One of the things that the current president said was that he was going to eradicate corruption, at the very least reduce it. Well, we can't argue that that's since, I call it the popcorn war on corruption. I don't know what other people call it. When Wole Soyinka said, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back, how does Peter Obi intend to fight corruption and make sure Peter Obi wins that war?
Let me first define corruption for
Go
you.
ahead, sir.
Because you see where people will say about corruption. Corruption, where we should be concentrating, is corruption in managing public resource.
Yeah.
Managing public resource, public trust. Fighting corruption is as easy as ABC. If you, who is in charge, is not stealing, your relations and those around you are not doing the same thing, you reduce it by 70%. And I challenge anybody to go and see what we did in Anambra State, where we were able to finish and left something billion. It is easy. If you, the principal person, is not involved, you reduce it by 70%. Because you have to be taking your own for other people to
Indeed.
take their own. But if you're not, you reduce it.
Okay. Let's talk infrastructure. Right now, 98% of our earnings, of the revenue of Nigeria, is spent on servicing debts. Now, we know we need infrastructure, more infrastructure, especially the health sector, which I'll come to later. How do you intend to clear that debt and also implement key infrastructure projects that we can't do without?
You can't reduce the debt. The reason why we got to the stage where we're using 98% to service debt is that the debt you borrowed was not productive. You didn't put it into productive assets.
Indeed.
So it was consumed. So when you borrow money and consume it, your debt increases, your servicing of the debt increases. But if you put it into production, your value increases. And I've given these examples everywhere with several countries. We're not the only country who is borrowing. There's nothing wrong with borrowing. I say it morning, afternoon, night. It's what you borrow with the foreign funds that is different. I give you an example. People say I've used Bangladesh. So let me use Japan.
Okay.
Japan is owing 230% of their GDP. But per capita in Japan is still about $48,000. Because one, the money they borrowed was meant to help build a better economy. It was properly invested. It was to save the country from collapsing. And most of the monies that are domestic investors. And Japan is still the highest holder of U.S. treasuries. Singapore will cite every day. People don't even know. Singapore owns more than 100% of its GDP in debt. But do you know why Singapore's debt is not affecting the per capita of Singapore? Because they have a law which says for every money you borrowed, it must be for investment in the future. But here we borrow it and we consume it. So we're not looking when the person of the money comes, because we have no money to pay, is affecting our earning. So what we need to do as a country is to first change that borrowing pattern.
Right.
And make sure that our borrowings are for investment.
Okay.
And when you change it, you start seeing upward trajectory of your GDP. For example, today, our debt is about 20%, 25% of our GDP, which actually is low compared with other countries. But our revenue is not increasing, which makes it now servicing difficult.
Yeah.
But if it was invested, our GDP would have been about 10% of our GDP today. And servicing should not have been more than maximum 20%, which will allow us to borrow more and invest in education, in infrastructure, in all those critical areas that develops the country.
So whilst we're talking infrastructure development and investment, we must talk about health. Health, which has been severely, how can I say, it's been neglected to the point of no return. And yet, nobody seems to be investing in it. There's an estimated 2,000 doctors who have left Nigeria. How are you going to fix that? How are you going to keep them here?
It's not just that. Let me tell you how bad it is.
Go, sir.
The 10 years investment, 10 years budget of Nigerian budget in health is not up to 1 year of South African budget in health. And you have 200 million people living here, and they have 55 million people living in South Africa. That is the crisis we have. Ghana is 30 million. They have a better health budget than Nigeria with 200 million.
So what do we do? Because it's ups and falls at the
our
bottom.
budget for health is not up to 5,000 per person.
Correct.
So there's no way you can do that. How do you want to reverse it? It's a very simple thing. That's what I'm saying. You must give people hope. Where we said, oh, we have more than enough doctors. When we have they said they have about one doctor to every 600. But we have one doctor to 10,000. So you can see how bad it is. If you're sick here, if you survive, maybe it's prayers. God has saved you.
Indeed.
You know, because one, you can afford it and everything. So what it is that it's like every other sector. No other sector is, no sector is good. So you won't say, how are you going to deal with this sector? We're going to deal with it holistically. When I became governor, I hear shout of primary healthcare.
Yes.
But it will shock you. The day I became governor, no single school of nursing or school of midwifery or school of health technology was accredited in Anambra State. Not one.
Wow.
So how can you drive primary health care when you don't have even the schools to train those who are supposed to provide those services? And we said, how are we going to do it? I want to start by quickly to ensure that I'll start with 3 schools.
So you're going to land running, as they say,
Yes.
literally.
So what did I do? I partnered with the church, because there's a school of nursing midwifery called in a hospital owned by Church of Nigeria, Iyenu. That school produced the first midwife ever in Nigeria. And it was done. But it's owned by the church. So I went to them and said, listen, we're going to partner with you.
Mm-hmm.
We want to restart the school. If we go to start one from ground zero, it will take us time. But you have existing facility, which if we put money, it will work. Of course, people started saying, oh, it's owned by a church, it's private. That's not where we are. What I want is this school. Then there was School of Nursing, owned by the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
There was School of... And that's how we started. Today, we have about 10 schools of nursing, midwifery, health technology that are accredited. So what we're going to do is not just using government. We're going to use everybody, every facility that can help to ensure that we kickstart health issues, health institutions, just like you're going to do with schools and everything.
Are you going to use those hospitals? Will you use the hospitals in Nigeria when you become...
Go and ask people where I go now. I live in Onitsha. Go to hospital in Onitsha.
Okay.
In fact, it will shock you. I have been going for tests. I lived in the UK for 10 years, so I had a physician in the UK I visit. And I've been going for tests for something. And every time they say, okay, it's normal. It was actually in Onitsha that they discovered there might be something wrong here.
Wow.
I'm telling you. But I've been going there in the UK. You see, whenever everybody have a headache, I go to hospitals in Onitsha, go to Waterside, they will tell you. I go to everywhere.
Right. Okay. I don't know if I've asked you this already, but we need to talk recurring expenditure. The most expensive line item in our budget. How do you intend to reduce it? Or can it be reduced?
No,
is it a pipe dream?
For me, I say it every day. The cost of governance in Nigeria is criminal. It's unacceptable anywhere in the world. And I've seen it. They have practiced it. I've said it openly. It's unaccepted. How do you say, when I became governor, the budget of Anambra State is almost 30% consumed by the office of the governor.
Yeah.
And what do you have there in the line? You have office of First Lady that is costing us almost about probably nearly 3 billion naira to keep the office running. How do you have an office of somebody who was not elected, never campaigned, had no contribution to any form of development except to create confusion in existing space? And you create that office and it's running. If you want to deal with, I'm somebody who believes that the women should be supported and given space.
But
so
we're going to talk.
What I did, I have a female as chief of staff. My secretary is a female, my PAMSEC, my commissioner for finance, commissioner for education, commissioner for local government. So, what again are you doing?
You have everything you said, yes, makes sense, makes logical sense to us, and we often think as ordinary citizens, why does this make sense to us and it doesn't make sense to the people ruling the country?
No, it's not just that office. There's so many other things.
Yeah, so many other things.
So many other things that we chopped off in order to put money in education. So what I did was to say to them, you know what I'm going to do with this budget? We're going to put percentages in the critical areas. So what is our first priority? Pulling people, looking at issue of dealing with statistical record of poverty and how do we solve poverty. So we said we're going to spend 15% of our budget. Education, health. By the time we finish it, what was remaining was less than 4% for the office of governor. We said, okay, we are now going to chop off what we don't need.
Right.
And we did.
Good. You cut off the fat, right?
Yes,
and leave the nice chunky meat. However,
we didn't even leave the meat. We reduced it to the bone.
Okay. So, but here's the thing. When it comes to federal, you have, and it's constant, you have a friction between the president and the executive, rather, and the lawmakers, the legislators. How do you intend, you as a progressive, How is it? No, but how is a progressive president going to manage a legislature that's quite fat, if I may put it in a polite way?
It's a very simple thing.
Go ahead.
I was a governor in a party where I was no single house member. 30 of them was in different parties. I was impeached.
Okay.
As you know, I
Yes.
came back for impeachment.
Yes.
And thereafter, why did they impeach me? When I started, they didn't know where I was going. They didn't know what I was trying to do. So they impeached me. But after that first 1 year, when they understood, so I always tell people that it's like a driver carrying passengers that have since passed their destination. So they said, well, listen, this man must go so we can go back to our destination. But when they realized where I was taking the state to, they became my biggest supporter. If people see you genuinely committed to what you're doing, that they will support you. Everybody kidding.
So you're
They
saying
support
that
them.
you'll be able to win them over
It's
by
a-
doing the right thing?
Of course, they will see it.
Right.
They will feel
By
it.
your actions.
Everything will be going the way it should be.
Right. Okay. Now, what about accountability? One of the things that Nigerians complain about is accountability for government officials.
It's a simple thing. That's what I'm saying. If you're doing the right thing, you wouldn't even, if you have budgets, because you have a budget.
But it's, I don't think it's as simple as just doing the right thing. How do we hold government officials accountable?
It's very simple. It is for the people to be bold enough to say, you're wrong. I told you, I paid off 33 billion in gratuity, pension and everything. How did it happen? I go to morning mass every morning. Every morning I go to morning mass as a governor because you need prayers. So I was in this church, St. Matthew Church in Amobia. An elderly woman, Mrs. Cindy Bay, who was 80 years old, walked up to me, took my Bible, took everything, and asked me to leave the church.
Wow.
And the people were protesting. And the people were begging her. And I said, leave, Mama, let me see what is happening. He said I should leave the church because God will never listen to my prayers. As long as she's being owed her gratuity, that she retired nearly 20 years ago, and she has not received her money. I left the church and said, Mama, I'm coming to visit you in the evening. He said, don't come to my house. Go and pay my gratuity. I went to her house in the evening, even when she didn't invite me. When I listened to her story and stories of others, I went back to that church and promised myself, I'm going to clear this debt. And 8 years after, I paid 33 billion naira.
Excellent. But the thing is, you see, nobody, somewhere along the
when we
line,
talk about
somebody
accountability-
dropped the ball on that. And nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets
When I
punished.
talk about accountability, it is for the people.
Right.
This is the only country where you vote P2B in. They know he did not have a house when they voted him. They know he did not have certain cars. They know his children were not driving certain cars. They know everything. Then suddenly Mr. P2B builds the best house in his village within 6 months, buys all the choice cars, and invite them for Thanksgiving. And even the church and everybody celebrating somebody they know where the money came from instead of calling police. Because we know where the money came from.
Yes, indeed. I know the lines are going. I've got to go to the lines. I have a couple more questions, but let me not be selfish. I've had you, 45 minutes. WhatsApp is insane. The lines are going wild. Right, you're going to speak to possible voters now. Are you ready?
Anybody?
They're going to throw questions at you. Are you ready?
Yes, I want them to come.
Okay, let's go. Hello. Hello. Oh, you snooze, you lose. I've got Mr. Peter will be here. If your line cuts off, I can't help you. Hello. What's your name and where you calling
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Ifunanya.
Ifunanya, you get one question. Go ahead. Mr. Peter will be
I want to ask your guest something. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, my sister. How are you?
Okay. I've been waiting for you since morning. I heard that you're coming. Okay, I said, okay, P2B is my father, he's my brother.
I have to rush
And
you. I have to rush
Yes.
you. The lines are going crazy.
Okay, because I would like to vote for you, but I have eye problem. I need surgery, sir. Please help me out. I need surgery, so I will come out and vote for you.
I'm going to
Please,
take
sir.
I'm going to take your phone number and I'll call you.
Okay, sir.
Don't worry.
Don't go away. Let's just write down your phone number before you
Okay,
go.
sir. Okay,
Have we been
ma.
able to capture it? Yes, they've captured it downstairs. Right. Okay, but please, nobody else don't call in with that. If you call in with that, I will disconnect you. This is a serious show. All right? First one is free. The second one doesn't happen. Not on Down for Conversations. Hello. Hello. Okay, you snooze, you lose. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Mr. Edward Senator. I'm calling from Lagos.
Okay. One
Sure,
question.
please.
Yes, he can hear you.
Good afternoon, His Excellency.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Having listened to this conversation along, and I'm very, very happy with so far so good what you have said. I think, in my opinion, we need people of a vibrant mentality like you in Nigeria. Well, one thing I want to ask, you becoming a president with the issue of tribalism in Nigeria, how are you going to cope with this kind of situation?
Okay. Thank you. Tribalism.
Thank you.
I'll give you a pen so we can take many questions and you don't have to answer one at a time. Right? Okay, let's answer the next call. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Ifeanyiwa.
Ifeanyiwa, talk to me. What's your question, please? Very quickly. One. Oh, you snooze, you lose. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from? You need to turn your radio down.
My name is Victor from VI.
Victor, what's your question, please?
Okay, I want to ask Mr. Tito Obi, if he becomes the president, how will he unite Nigeria? Because as it is now...
How will he what? Sorry, say that
unite
again.
Nigeria,
How will he
because as
unite
it is
Nigeria?
now,
Right.
We've been divided, religious line and all that.
Okay.
So how would he reunite Nigeria?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let's pick up more calls. Hello? Hello? Okay. Are you there? No. Hello? Good afternoon. You sound like you're panting. Yes, good afternoon.
Because I've been trying. I'm walking. I'm on the road.
Okay, you need to stand still, otherwise your
Yes.
line will cut off. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Joy. I'm calling from Abulegba.
Okay, Jay,
yes,
Mr. Peter Obi can hear you. One question.
Yes, one question. Mr. Peter Obi, I really thank you for coming. Yes, my question is this. Nigeria, this is my own philosophy, and I want to know what you think about it. Nigeria is not self-sufficient when it comes to, food and all the rest. And as a woman, my children need to eat. And things are pretty expensive right now. All because of the policies that the government...
I need to hurry you up. We don't have time. I need to hurry you up.
What do you say about the closure of the border when Nigeria is actually not self-sufficient? For the past, I wouldn't say for the past how many years, but we're not self-sufficient. What do you say about the closure of the border? We don't have rights.
And self-sufficiency. Right. Excellent. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from?
Ikechukwu is my name from VI.
Excellent. Ikechukwu, you have one question. Go ahead.
Okay. I would like to ask...
His Excellency can hear you. Go on.
Your Excellency, sir.
Yes.
I want you, sir, to please expand on the issue of security. ESN/IPOB, ISWAP / Boko Haram, and then bandits/herdsmen. Please, sir, expand on that. How do you intend to deal with these issues? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Right, let me go to WhatsApp. I have a question here from Kings, and I'm just picking these randomly, by the way. We have so many questions. I'm going to try and get as many as possible. I have here from Kings from Orile. He said, "Hi, Rati, please ask Peter Obi if he indeed handed over 15 billion to his successor. And if true, how did he achieve such a feat?" You only get one question, so I'm not going to ask you a second one. Otherwise, other people will miss out. What do I have here? Peter Obi is the best candidate for the position of Nigeria. I need questions. I'm not asking for comments. Let's go to the lines. Hello? Hello, go ahead. Very quickly. What's your name?
Hello?
What is your name? I can hear you.
My name is Elijah.
Elijah.
Good afternoon.
Where are you calling from, Elijah?
I'm calling from Igondo.
Excellent. Igondo. Please give His Excellency one question.
Good afternoon, Excellency.
Thank you. Good afternoon,
I want to know, you see, this country, Nigeria, has been without lights everywhere in the whole country, from east, west, north, and south. Regular lights. And you go to some countries, Ghana and all these neighboring countries, or even on developing countries, if you go to India, they have 24 hours light from January to December. How is it that we continue to live in darkness in Nigeria from when we are born till we die?
Okay.
Well, how can we continue like this?
Excellent. Thank you. Right. Sir, over to you. You have several questions there. In fact, my guy is telling me that I'm loading you with too many questions.
Okay, so let me start with it. Somebody said, how do you intend to deal with issue of tribalism? And the second question said, how can you unite Nigeria that is so divided? I think they're basically the same question.
Pretty much.
In different. So let me assure you and let me tell you, the ordinary Nigerians are not so divided. The division is elite conspiracy in order to continue living off the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
The poor people in the north are hungry. The poor people in the west are hungry. The poor people in the east are hungry.
Right.
What they want is opportunity. Create an opportunity for them to have a job. Create opportunity for them to have a living. And you will see there's no tribalism. I at school had a lot of friends in the southwest, a lot of friends in the north. When I was growing up, I went to school, say University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I used to drive from University of Nigeria, Nsukka to ABU. I used to drive from there to Unilag, to Ibadan, to everything. We didn't know any difference between us because things were good. Everybody had this thing. We had the same job. I'm an investor, I'm a trader. I have people today. I've invested in companies run by Yorubas, the houses and everything, and we're very close. This division is because of the incompetency of the leadership, and to sustain the incompetency and people who don't have capacity, they put it into a tribal sentiment.
Yeah.
So uniting them is very easy. And it's the first job of whoever is coming in. For me, Nigeria is one. I'm worried about what is happening in Northwest, what is happening in Northeast, what is happening in Southeast and everything. And I can tell you, it can be dealt with easily. Once you start driving the process of the economic revolution, you will see people coming together. And everything.
Excellent. We'll be back. I'll let you answer the rest of the questions. We're going to go on a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, Lagos, Nigeria.
Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Early bird, 3,000 naira.
So hurry, beat the rush and grab your tickets online now.
Your Easter will never be the same again. Praise Jam, the resurrection. Don't be told, be there. This event is certified by the Lagos State Safety Commission.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
The light.
So 30 seconds on whatever questions you have left, so I can pick up more questions and try and do some on what you call it, on WhatsApp as well. But I also have a question here that I think is critical that I think you should add. What are your thoughts on the Abuja Kaduna train bombing and the poor physical and emotional response from government? Over to you.
Well, let me just quickly continue where I've stopped. Somebody asked the issue of food sufficiency and
Yes.
everything. Again, it goes to what I'm saying, that the government did not in the past invest in the future. We shouldn't be talking about food sufficiency now, considering what the example I gave when I talked about the land in Niger State, where we have, imagine investing, supporting the farmers, and investing in critical farming areas of just Niger State, where we have 776,000 1,000 square kilometers of land. We should be able to feed Nigeria.
Indeed.
And we should be able to export. Because if Netherlands with less than half of that, in fact, let me not go to Netherlands. Morocco exported agricultural products of nearly 10 billion last year.
Yeah.
If they can do that, we can do it. So we've not invested in the future. We just have to start doing that. Ikechukwu talked about securing, expanding the issue of clashes and everything.
That's right.
The reality is that I won't discuss in details on issue of security, but I said it is not being properly managed. In security, for example, we wait here until we have problem to start investing in security. Security is a renewable thing. That's why you see countries have huge defense and security budget every year, and they invest in it annually.
Mm-hmm.
You don't wait until a thief knocks in your door to know that you have to put the gadgets or put proper security locks, everything. That's what we seems to be doing. We wait until something goes wrong. These are things procurement of security. Whenever you say, oh, we don't have our security system, in terms of personnel, is below what it's supposed to be. In terms of equipment, in terms of investment, all of them, you need to take it. Security is a critical component of development because it's the first line of your intangible assets. People have to be secured to invest in your system. So, issues of security.
That's it.
What must be there?
The Abuja Kaduna.
The Abuja
train question, yes.
It's very unfortunate. You know, it's very unfortunate. It shouldn't have been there if we have dealt with the issue of the security. If we have dealt with the issue of security, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It happened because we didn't deal with it very well. Two, now that it's happened, the government needs to do more.
Exactly, because things will happen, but it's how we respond to it and the lack of empathy.
They need to do more.
Right.
That's where I will stop.
Right.
You know, because at this stage, you don't want to be blaming anybody, but they needed to do more.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to show more. They needed to respond differently and everything. And somebody said, whether indeed left 50 billion.
Whether you left 15 billion and how were you able to do it?
Is this a 15?
Yeah, I think he said 15 billion.
No.
Yeah.
I left 75 billion.
75 billion.
Not
right.
15.
Right.
75.
So and how were you able to do that as well as invest in the States?
They were left in banks in Nigeria.
Right.
So they're not foreign banks. So you don't need the clarification.
Yeah.
The day I left office, I announced it. I had in Access Bank $50 million.
Okay.
And about over 10 billion naira. I had in Diamond Bank $50 million and over 10 billion naira.
Okay.
I had in Fidelity Bank $56 million and over 12 billion naira. And I can show the investment and everything that considered 75 billion. How were you able to do that and invest in infrastructure or in the education?
Which is my question, yes.
It's very simple. We shut down the cost of governance. We decided to prudently manage our resources. And above all, I insisted from day one, we must save money. There's no system that consumes everything that it earns. Because this oil we're talking and everything is assets that belongs to this generation and the future generation. So you must save. In fact, we're the only country I know that have a diminishing assets like oil that are not saving.
And this is the thing. So before we even move on to, and I will come back to your cause very quickly. Let me just finish this with him. Your successor didn't continue what you did. And one of the things that happens in Nigeria is that, yes, people can come with excellent ideas and implement very well. But if those ideas are not institutionalized, anybody else can come along and just destroy them. How do we make sure that doesn't happen?
It is the people.
Right.
It is critical. Let me tell you, I've lived in the Western world. The people are important when it comes to checks and balances. It is the same thing what the legislature is all about.
Okay.
So if Mr. A comes and do well and have some things that are working, the people ought to own it up and say, hey, wait a minute. We can't continue. We don't want this. We don't want this. We don't want this. And try as much as possible to ensure that it does not continue. But what you see here is that the people, knowing that things are going wrong, are celebrating it. Just like I said before, the people knew that Mr. Obi did not have a house when he became governor. He suddenly built the best house in town, and he's inviting them for the Thanksgiving.
And nobody questions why. Indeed. Right. Let's go back to your calls. I'm going to start from WhatsApp. I have here from Timothy in Ikeja. He said to Mr. Peter Obi, will you be running mate to Atiku if PDP failed to give you the ticket? So that's one. Let me pick up another one. Please ask your where is it? Black. Please ask your guest how he'll fight corruption. We've already talked about that. Let me see if I can get another one. Power supply. He's already talked about that. Let's go to the calls. Hello.
Yeah, Chief Mrs. Good afternoon.
Chief. Okay, Chief Mister.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Sir.
You can hear you. Right. You get one question. One question.
I'm not seeing your poster. You know, on the radio, the media will be hiring P2B. But when you come down to the grassroots, like the market women, the artisan, the market men, people on the grassroots, we are not hearing.
Right. He's talking about they're not hearing enough from you. Well, you can write that down. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good day.
Yes, good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling
Your
from?
Excellency, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I need you to hurry up. Yes, one question. He can hear you.
Mr. Peter Obi, may I ask you, we feel relaxed when it comes to refinery fixing. What are your plans when you become president? How do you intend to fix our refinery?
The
because
refineries.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you? Pardon? Ikechukwu, right. You get one question. One. Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Right. Let me go to WhatsApp, see if I can fit in any more WhatsApp questions. Good afternoon. I hope Mr. Obi, Mr. Peter Obi will not chicken out of the presidential race to concede to a VP position. I'll leave you to answer that. What have we got here? Mr. Obi, all our ministries has been running by politicians who have no knowledge of what it takes to run ministries. What will you do differently to ensure that we have professionals at the ministries? Okay. Godwin Inikoyi said, ask Mr. Obi how he's going to handle the issue of the cabal, the so-called alleged cabal, I must say. Okay. Let's answer more calls and then I'll leave you to answer that. Hello.
Good afternoon, Cecilia.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Remy from Akoka.
Go ahead, Remy from Akoka. One question.
Yes. Is Mr. Peter to reopen the border to become the president?
Okay, the border. Okay, thank you. Right. Let me give you 10 minutes to answer. Well, actually 5. We don't have much time.
Will you be VP to Atiku? That was the first question that came on the second one. And
yes.
My position is very simple. I'm contesting to be president. And what I want my listeners and everybody is to help me to get the delegates to vote me to be number 1.
Okay.
I won't say where I'm going to end. Will I be a minister? Will I be this? Will I be that? That is not my choice. My choice is that I'm contesting to be president.
So let me ask you a question.
So it's very simple thing. It's for me to focus on what I'm contesting. It's like asking somebody in an exam, will you be second or will you be third? That everybody wants to be first. What they will be thereafter, I don't know.
Now, given what you've just said and given that you have, and I think that's why people are asking, because in 2019 you were running mate to Atiku Abubakar. What did you learn then that you will not repeat this time?
Well,
One thing that you learned.
I don't think there's anything I can say I learned that I wasn't going to repeat. Atiku was the candidate, and he chose me. It wasn't as if I contested for it. And if he becomes candidate tomorrow, he will look around and say, for me to be president, I need A or B or C. If I become, I will do the same thing.
Okay.
So it's listen.
So back to the power question.
The power. I didn't answer it in the first place, and then somebody came up again.
Mm-hmm.
Issue of power is one to regret. There's no reason why Nigeria should not be generating enough power by today. You can't have a situation where we're just ended, since I'm not Nigeria, be within 3,000 and 4,000 megawatts. When small countries, I would say small, but South Africa, which is the second biggest economy, is generating over 40,000 megawatts. Egypt, within 2-3 years, was able to double their power supply by just having the investment they did with Siemens of Germany. We would do the same thing. It's a very easy thing. Somewhere along the line, I believe it's leadership failure. Simple. And that's where my comment will stop. Because we borrowed enough money. Pakistan borrowed a particular amount of money and threw it to power. I'm just giving you countries with similar trajectory that have done things differently. And it can be done. Because if we didn't consume all this money we're borrowing, when we are throwing it to power, genuinely, we would have fixed it. On issue of will you chicken out? Well, it's same thing.
It's the same
They
thing.
don't know what it means to run for this office. I can't do what I'm doing now and in the end said I'm not part of it. It is almost impossible, especially when you know that I have the capacity and the competence to solve this problem. This is the society my children will live in.
Yeah.
And I can say categorically that while not saying it's going to be right from day one, within 4 years, I can turn this ship around and position it for the right direction.
Okay.
With with ease.
With ease. Right. Can I add more
They talk
questions?
about issue of, somebody talked about the issue of, let me see, all the ministries are not run by professionals.
Yes, that they're not run by professionals.
Is see, at the end of the day, I managed ministries when I was governor, and they were well run. You can go and ask. In fact, one of the biggest job of anybody who is coming to government in Nigeria is to bring civility and order in governance. Because everything's so haphazard now. We did it when we were in Anambra State. And it's easy to replicate this. We've done it. There's somewhere to look at and say, how did it happen here? You know? And if you know how it happened there, it's easy to deal with it when I'm on the center.
Okay. I'm going to move you on. Right.
Issue of cabal.
Okay, the cabal, yes.
There's nothing called cabal. Unless you decide to create one.
Right.
Quote me anywhere. I've governed in Anambra State. There was no issue of cabal. Unless you choose to create one.
Unless you choose to create
You are the one who is going to create it. And then suddenly turn around and say there's cabal.
Right. We spoke earlier on about accountability for public officials while in public office, etc. I have a question from, now we're taking questions from Facebook. Tayo Shitu on Facebook said, can Mr. Peter Obi answer the Pandora box accusation against him to silence opposing views? So that's one. Let's answer more calls. Hello.
Hello, my sister.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good
What's your name and where you calling from, please?
Kingsley from Ikrodu. Your Excellency, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You are welcome, sir. So, sir, please, you mentioned something when they asked you about the health sector.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, what if you won the presidency, sir, and the cabinet said you must went for a medical checkup outside, and then you change your mind according to the slogan we have, I'm not a president for anybody, I'm president for everybody. That's the first question. The second one, sir.
Oh, no, you only get one question.
Oh,
You only, the lines are on fire. You only get one question. Thank you. Hello? Hello? Are you there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What's your
Yes.
name and where you calling from?
Good afternoon, His Excellency.
Good afternoon.
And Madam Iliti. This is Pastor Ladipo calling from Orile Gomo.
Mm-hmm.
My question is this, sir. How will you, if you eventually become the president, how will you bring stability to the health sector and the issue of electricity? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I also have another question for you, sir, from WhatsApp. Good afternoon, Ireti. Please ask. My question is, how can he reduce the salaries of the lawmakers? I have another one here which says, please ask Peter Obi if he finished with the third class in the university, Henry from Benin City. Okay, let's answer more calls. We don't have much time left. Yes, I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. I don't want to ask some question. It's about the lawmaker's salary.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Excellency.
Good afternoon.
Your name, please, and your question.
Just Lokoya.
Okay, go ahead.
My own question is, are you scared of campaigning all around, showing like people
That we can't listen. We can't talk about campaign right now. We will be breaking the rules. Ask him a direct question to do with the nation, please. You're gone. All right. I've got a question for you. What are your thoughts on restructuring? Number one. Number two, zoning. What are your thoughts on the zoning, especially with the growing voice for an Igbo presidency? There you go. You have 10 minutes. We're almost out of time. My guy over there is going to cut me off.
Let me start with the issue. Let me start from the back, zoning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing wrong with zoning. In a diverse country as Nigeria, where you have different zones, different ethnic groups and everything, zoning calls for inclusiveness. It calls for a sense of belonging. It calls for people to feel they are part of this enterprise called Nigeria. So there's nothing wrong with it. But we have to moderate it with capacity and competence. Zoning does not say give it to somebody who is not competent. Every zone in Nigeria have competent people, capable and everything. By zoning, we accommodate each other. We feel it's like showing love. That's what makes a nation that is as diverse and ethnically divided as we are. So I support zoning.
Okay.
However, as you can see, my party have, for reasons best known to them, just in zoning and decided that everybody should. So, doesn't matter. While we have it at the back of our mind, let's look for the best among those who are let's do who have capacity. For me, I'm a Nigerian. I'm running as a Nigerian.
Okay.
And I'm running in my capacity that I have what it takes to turn it around. And I've proven it in private sector, as a personal businessman, a trader. I've published in the public corporations, where I was director in so many companies. And I've done it in public sector as a governor. So it's for you to check my trajectory, my records and everything, and say, okay, on issue of restructuring, is a critical component of development.
Yeah.
Restructuring is critical. But you know, even those who will be the greatest beneficiary of restructuring thinks it's anything. There's nothing in restructuring. It's just to make the whole place to develop. That's why I always say that restructuring is like fixing the engine of the vehicle.
But
to make it work. People think it's about division. No, it's not about division. There are things, for example, if you talk about state police or this thing, which are part of restructuring, we're the only country that I know that is as big as we are with one just central police. There's nothing wrong. It's a security measure. I used to be in the University of Nigeria when we have campus police. There's nothing security. Security is something you drive down the process. So these are things that we're going to go. Education, for example, we used to have almost a competition when there was the ABU, there was Unilag, there was Ebado, there was soccer. So these are things that comes restructuring. There's nothing wrong in it. Should be encouraged.
But
not the way.
What most will say to you is we have the current constitution we have is not actually the constitution of the people, and some would even suggest to you that should we be having a referendum, and can you
all those things will happen, but not the way politicians are driving. They will have to happen in a sense where even those who have fears, you know, when it comes to issue of restructuring, politics is about dialogue, consultation, meetings. It's not going to be where you throw things on people. You just have to, make people have a sense of belonging. Today, people are scared maybe, we'll lose getting the revenue we're getting from oil. The reality is that, look at a state like America. The biggest and richest state is not Texas that has the oil. It is actually California that has the agriculture. So you might even say that when you restructure, not just state will be the highest place where people will go to. It is states that have ideas.
I have to move you on. We've got 2 minutes left.
So this is the lecture.
Yes.
You're talking about, somebody said when I finished with first class, I went to University of Nigeria, Nsukka. And I asked the person to go there. He will know my result. I read philosophy.
Okay.
I read philosophy, and everybody knows. I came in there in 1980 and I left in 1984. If you go in there, you will see my result.
Okay.
I think it's a better result than this one.
Okay.
But it's not them. How do you reduce the salary? And you can go on. There's so many other schools I've been. I'm an alumni of so many schools.
Yes.
Kellogg Graduate School,
They can
Oxford,
go to
Cambridge.
Wikipedia and read
You can
that.
go on and look at it. So, reduce the salaries of lawmakers.
Part of that recurring expenditure.
Like I said, we'll reduce the cost of governance. It's not going to be reduce the one of lawmakers and leave the one of executive or anybody. We have to look at it holistically and look at how we can reduce the cost of governance. Somebody said bring stability within the health sector and electricity. Let me tell you, I don't know how I'll describe this again. You cannot have a country like Nigeria without having a functional health sector, an issue. And I'll bring it to someone who said, will you go to health issues outside and everything? The only way somebody who is a leader here should go out of here for health issues is on referral. But I don't think it can be referred out because everything is here.
Indeed.
In today's world, you cannot do that. And you have to do it properly and invest money in it. It's a very easy thing. I was governor. Go and ask them whether, as governor, whether I have any left Anambra State any day to go and do checkup abroad. I was going to the hospitals I built in Anambra State. I was going to the ones that renovated.
We have.
That was. So
I need to rush you.
Somebody now talking about the issue of Pandora, which is the one I need to do.
Yes.
I've explained this over and over again. There's what I told them is a very certain. If you have a situation that I have, there's nothing called Pandora issue. I have a trust. Trust is a legitimate means of investment and savings for the future.
Okay.
And what you need to do is ask yourself, like I said publicly, and I repeat, if you go to that trust and see any investment in it while I was governor, or that can be linked to public money, then it becomes a problem. But I'm an investor.
Okay.
The trust, there's no law in Nigeria that says you can't save money. And I prove it by saving public money. And let me tell you, when people talk about corruption and everything, no thief sees what he can steal and keeps it.
Okay.
I have 75
we
billion
need to move.
when I can
Indeed.
take it.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, follow us on Twitter Spaces, #OB on Nigeria Info right now. Your Excellency, my final question to you is, your nickname is the Okute of the Southeast. Are you the Okute of Nigeria?
Well, I don't know. It depends. I've got that from.
So you leave that to the people to decide?
All the traditional rulers in my state, the day I left, did that title. It's actually my name. Peter is the rock. But the traditional rulers came together. And I say ambushed me because I never believe in chieftaincy title or any title. But on the day I was leaving, and it's the first time it's done, where the entire traditional rulers came together and said, before this man leaves here, this is the title we're going to give him.
Okay.
And I try to also live it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You've now been christened the Danfo Conversational.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, move over to Twitter Spaces. We're going to continue the conversation there. Hashtag OB on Nigeria Info. Thank you. Be well. Have a good weekend.